It does not begin with talent. It does not begin with education. It does not even begin with opportunity. Success, true, sustainable, soul-rooted success begins in the mind. But that is also where it is most often lost. Because no one ever tells you the truth loud enough to interrupt the noise, it is not your skill that stops you. It is your mindset. You see, most people do not fail for lack of knowledge. They fail because they do not believe they are allowed to succeed. They carry invisible ceilings, inherited limits, recycled beliefs. They move in circles, not because they cannot go forward, but because their inner compass is set to survival, not expansion. And that is where I need to meet you now. Not at your plans, not at your goals, but at the place where your beliefs were formed quietly, early, unconsciously until they became law. Until they became the voice in your head saying, you cannot. You should not. You are not enough. That voice? It does not belong to you. But it has been living inside you long enough to sound like truth. So let us burn it. Because before anything changes outside, everything must change inside. The title of this book is not just a clever phrase. It is a reckoning. Success is 80% mindset. The other 20%? Strategy, skills, structure. But if the mindset is broken, the strategy will be abandoned, the skills will be wasted, the structure will collapse. Mindset is not something you fix later. It is the foundation and the frame. I have seen it in every room, from CEOs to artists to athletes. The ones who rise are not always the smartest. But they are always the ones who manage their inner world with ruthless clarity. They speak to themselves differently. They see failure differently. They train their thoughts like a soldier trains reflexes. Because they know you do not get what you want. You get what your mind believes you are allowed to receive. If you grew up with scarcity, your mind expects struggle. If you grew up insane, your mind expects invisibility. If you lived in survival, your mind expects chaos. And unless you interrupt that default mindset with a new one deliberately, daily EOA will sabotage every breakthrough you claim to want. That is the hidden war. No one talks about the war between what you say you want and what your mind still fears having. So, I will not give you empty motivation. I will give you something better, the truth. And here it is. If you can take control of your mind, you can take control of your entire life. Because your body follows your belief. Your behavior follows your story. And your results follow your rhythm of thought. That is why every part of this book is not about quick wins. It is about rewiring the core. It is about replacing the old voice with a new one. A voice that speaks from power, not from fear. A voice that no longer asks for permission to rise. Let me ask you, who would you be if your mind stopped working against you? What would you build if fear no longer dictated your decisions? What would happen if you actually believed fully, unshakably, that you deserve what you dream? That belief? That is what this book is here to restore. And the way we will do it is simple. Not easy. Simple. Each day, one shift. Each chapter, one lens. Each part, one deeper set of your internal standard. And by the end, if you do the work, you will no longer recognize the voice that once lived in your head. Because that voice will be dead. Replaced by the one that says, I build. I rise. I own this. This is your invitation to begin. To stop treating mindset like a side dish and start treating it like the main engine. To stop blaming the world for your limitations and confront the mirror with fire in your eyes. To stop reading about success and step into it, from the inside out. This is not just a book. This is your moment to reclaim your mind. Because once you own your mind, there is nothing you cannot build. Chapter 1. From Reaction to Command. It starts small. I delay here. Aid out there. I hesitation in your tone when you speak about your goals. You say you want to grow, but your energy pulls back. You say you believe in your vision, but your eyes look away when someone questions it. You are not weak. You are just reacting to a mindset you never consciously chose. The mind was never meant to be a follower. It was built to lead. But for most it has become a mirror constantly reflecting fear, reflecting doubt, reflecting limits that were passed down but never challenged. Your parents, your teachers, your environment may have taught you how to survive, but did they ever teach you how to command your mind? Because that is the shift. That is the beginning. That is where you move from being a reactor to becoming a commander. Reaction is what happens when you live according to the past. Command is what happens when you live according to vision. And vision cannot live inside a passive mind. It needs a throne. It needs a protector. It needs a leader who says, we are no longer building this life based on fear. We are building from fire now. But that fire must be lit deliberately and daily. Because the mind is not loyal to your highest potential. It is loyal to your most consistent instructions. If your most consistent thoughts are I am tired, I do not know how, I am not like them, then that becomes law to your nervous system. It begins to shape your posture, your habits, your emotional response. Your entire life becomes a mirror of internal scripts you did not write but you still obey them. That obedience must end. You do not owe your old beliefs another day of loyalty. You do not owe your past another moment of submission. You owe your future your full authority. Authority over what you say, what you repeat, what you expect, what you believe. Because what you believe becomes what you build. And your first act of command is to speak differently. Do not underestimate the power of language. Every word you say out loud is an instruction to your subconscious. When you say, this is just who I am, your mind accepts it as truth. When you say, I cannot do that, your body closes. When you say, one day it'll change, your timeline shifts further into the distance. But when you say, this ends with me, your mind listens. When you say, I am building discipline, your mind prepares. When you say, I do not need to feel ready to move, your nervous system adjusts. In that adjustment, that is where power begins. You must train your mind like you would train a wild animal. Not with aggression, with consistency. You must show it daily who is in charge now. That is why rituals matter. Not because of the act, but because of the authority they reestablish every morning. When you wake up and journal your intention, you are not just writing. You are declaring. When you move your body, you are not just exercising. You are commanding energy. When you sit in silence, you are not just resting. You are clearing interference. Every habit is not about what it produces. It is about what it proves. And what it proves is that you are no longer reacting to life, you are commanding it. But let me warn you, the moment you take command, resistance will come. Not from others. From inside. The old thoughts will try to return. The emotional pull to delay. The mental arguments for your limitations. And if you are not trained to recognize the voice of the old mind, you will listen to it again. And you will call it logic. But it is not logic. It is loyalty to the old you. So make the break. Not someday. No. The moment you feel that resistance rise, declare the new voice, I hear you. But you do not lead me anymore. And then move. Even if it is small. Even if it is slow. Even if your hands shake. Because every act of command, no matter how small, weakens the grip of reaction. That is how the rewiring begins. That is how success becomes inevitable. Not because of a trick. Because of training. And that training? It begins every morning when you choose who will lead your fear or your fire. Choose fire. Choose command. Because success is not a talent. It is a decision, reinforced daily by the mind of someone who no longer reacts but rules. Chapter 2. The belief that builds or breaks everything. Every empire begins in silence with a single belief. Not the kind you chant mindlessly in the mirror. Not the kind you post with a pretty background. I am talking about the deep minus-rooted, unshakable belief that lives in your bones. The one that governs your behavior, not your intentions. The one that writes your story when you are tired, scared, unseen, or unsupported. That belief. It will either build your life or break it. Because belief is not just what you say. It is what you do without thinking. If you believe the world is against you, you will find evidence every day to prove it. If you believe success is only for the lucky, you will unconsciously sabotage every opportunity that does not feel like luck. If you believe you must earn your worth by overworking, you will burn yourself down while others sleep peacefully. But if you believe that your mind is the engine and your thoughts are levers, you will begin to pull differently. You will begin to create, not cope. You will begin to lead, not fall. You will begin to build, no matter what you feel. And that shift is the real work. Because most people are living inside beliefs they never chose. Beliefs handed to them by family, trauma, scarcity, culture. Beliefs wrapped in pain, disguised as protection. It is better to stay small than risk judgment. It is safer to please everyone than speak truth. It is more noble to struggle than to succeed. And they wonder why they feel heavy. Why life feels stuck. Why they keep repeating the same year inside a new calendar. It is because the mindset has not been cleaned. You must detox the belief system before you rebuild the strategy. Because strategy on top of broken belief is like building a cathedral on cracked glass. It might look beautiful for a moment, but it will collapse under pressure. And pressure always comes. So what do you believe right now? Not what do you want to believe. Not what do you say you believe. But what do your actions reveal? Do you really believe you deserve peace? Then why do you keep choosing chaos? Do you really believe you are called for more? Then why do you keep tolerating less? Do you really believe you are powerful? Then why do you speak like a beggar? Let that sting. Let it burn. Because from that burn a new belief can be born. A belief you choose. A belief that says, I am not my past. I am my pattern of thought today. I am not stuck. I am simply rehearsing limits I forgot I could interrupt. I am not behind. I am now present, and that is where everything begins. And once you install that belief through repetition, reflection, and aligned action, you no longer need external validation. You move from a place of internal certainty. And that certainty, it builds traction. It builds momentum. It builds results that are not just impressive but inevitable. Let me be clear, changing your beliefs is not passive. It is surgical. It requires that you stop living in agreement with what no longer serves you. It requires that you speak new laws into your subconscious. It requires that you interrupt the old voice over and over again until it no longer dares to speak. And yes, it takes time, but not as much as you think. Because belief is like a lever. Once it is installed with precision, even a small push creates massive movement. So here is your practice. Each morning during your sacred hour, ask, what belief will I live from today? Not what do I want. What will I live from? Write it down. Read it out loud. Act in alignment with it. That action done daily becomes identity. And identity is the force that turns mindset into magnetism. People will feel something different in you not because of what you say, because of what you radiate. Because belief, once installed properly, becomes the loudest thing in the room even when you say nothing. You walk differently. You breathe differently. You decide differently. And soon your reality begins to bend to match your belief. That is not magic. That is mindset. And that is why belief is not a concept. It is the foundation of success itself. Chapter 3. The inner war you must win before the world ever sees you. No one sees the real war. They see the posts. They see the smiles. They see the highlight reel of your ambition, your goals, your productivity. But what they never see, what even those closest to you often miss, is the inner battlefield. The quiet, relentless war between who you were trained to be and who you are called to become. You see, before you ever build a business, write a book, stand on a stage, or lead a movement, you must face the one enemy who has always been closest to your own mind. That mind, left untrained, will become a master at sabotage. Not because it hates you, because it fears your becoming. Because it was wired for survival. And survival does not trust the unknown. And your next level? It is unknown. So the mind resists. Not loudly. Subtly. With delay. With self-minus doubt. With logical excuses. With fatigue that feels justified. With moods that pull you away from your mission. And if you do not recognize the voice for what it is, you will think it is you. You will obey it. You will shrink. And you will call it being realistic. But it is not reality. It is programming. It is the ghost of your old identity, still trying to run the show. This chapter is your reckoning. Because if you do not learn how to win the war in your mind, you will never see the results you were born to create. And here is the truth. You do not need to do more. You need to decide differently. Decision is the weapon of a mind that has taken back authority. And the first decision you must make every morning is this: who am I today? Not based on yesterday. Not based on what others expect. Not based on your feelings. But based on your chosen identity. Because every thought, every choice, every action is voting for the identity you will strengthen. Most people live on autopilot. They are not choosing. They are repeating. They wake up and walk in the same patterns. They think the same thoughts. They live under the same ceilings. And they wonder why nothing changes. Change does not come from hope. Change comes from mental discipline. That means you must become a guardian of your thoughts. You must interrogate your beliefs like a soldier at the gate. Are you for me or against me? And if a thought weakens you, you replace it. Immediately. Without apology. Without delay. Because to entertain disempowering thoughts is to invite sabotage into your sanctuary. I have watched brilliant minds collapse not from failure, But from internal war they never learned how to fight. They kept showing up to the world half-minus present, distracted by the battle behind their eyes. But the ones who rise, the ones who change generations, they are not always more gifted. They are simply more trained in the war of the mind. And you must train too, because the war will not stop. But you can stop losing it. You stop losing when you stop arguing for your limitations. You stop losing when you stop romanticizing your struggle. You stop losing when you start speaking with the authority of someone who knows, if I do not lead my mind, I will follow the lowest thought in the room. Let us get practical. Each day, write this sentence. If I lose the inner war today, I lose the day. If I win the inner war, the world cannot touch me. Then list your non-negotiable mindset practices. The thoughts you will no longer tolerate. The triggers you will no longer obey. The mood swings you will override with mission. The truths you will repeat until your bones believe them. Speak them. Write them. Move from them. Because the war is not won once. It is won every day. Every hour. Every breath. You will be tempted to skip this. You will be tempted to say, I know this already. But knowing does not win the war. Repetition does. You do not get stronger by understanding the gym. You get stronger by showing up and lifting. You do not get free by knowing about mindset. You get free by training it when it is hardest to do so. And when you do, you walk into rooms differently. You speak with less noise and more presence. You build from peace, not pressure. You stop reacting. You start creating. Because the mind that is disciplined is a mind that becomes magnetic. It no longer begs for confidence. It radiates clarity. That is who you are now. Not someone trying to win. Someone who has already decided to stop losing. Now go to war. And this time win it. Chapter 4. You are no longer available for self-sabotage. There is a line you must draw if you want to break cycles that have lived in your mind longer than your dreams. A line that separates the person who keeps trying from the one who finally becomes. And that line is not drawn with a pen. It is drawn with a decision the moment you declare, I am no longer available for self-sabotage. That sentence changes lives. Because the truth is, most people are not being blocked by others. They are being blocked by their own unconscious loyalty to failure. Their own need to stay familiar. Their own fear of what might happen if they truly allow themselves to rise. Self-sabotage is not a flaw in your character. It is a flaw in your conditioning. It is your mind trying to protect you from expansion. Because expansion feels dangerous when you have only ever known struggle. When you start to succeed, something strange happens. A part of you begins to panic. It whispers, this is too fast. This is too much. This is not who we are, so you shrink. You delay. You forget. You misplace your power. And worst of all, you make it make sense. You say, I needed a break. You say, life got in the way. You say, I will come back to it when things settle. But deep down, you know that is not truth. It is the pattern. The one that shows up right when things begin to work. Right when momentum builds. Right when the door starts to open. And unless you interrupt it, it will write you a story again. So let this be the interruption. Let this be the moment you decide I will never again be the reason I stop. You must become unavailable for self-sabotage. That means You do not let your mood cancel your mission. You do not let your old identity rewrite your new decisions. You do not let fear of success look more rational than the pain of staying stuck. Because self-minus sabotage is not just a delayed tactic. It is a subconscious agreement to stay small. And you were not built for smallness. Your dreams are not a fantasy. They are a memory from your future. And the only thing standing between you and that future is the voice in your mind that keeps asking, "Are you sure we are allowed to rise?" Answer it. Yes. You are allowed. You are required. Because your potential is not a privilege. It is your responsibility. So how do you stop self-minus sabotage? You become ruthless about your environment. Because your mind is not a closed system. It responds to what surrounds it. Who are you listening to? What do you feed your thoughts? Who gets access to your energy? Do not expect to rise if your circle is rooted in excuses. Do not expect to grow if your atmosphere is allergic to excellence. You must also become surgical with your thoughts. The moment you hear it's not working, you say, "That's fear talking." The moment you feel resistance, you say, "This is proof I'm on the edge of something." The moment you feel the urge to quit, you say, "Ah, the pattern has arrived." This is the test. You must outsmart the old you. Because that version of you was built for protection, not progress. And you do not need protection anymore. You need permission to expand. And if the world will not give it to you, then give it to yourself. Right here. Right now. Say it out loud. I am no longer available for self-minus sabotage. I do not confuse chaos with growth. I do not delay what I am ready to become. I do not reject peace just because it is unfamiliar. I do not shrink when seen. I do not run when it works. Repeat it every morning if you must. Because the only thing more dangerous than failing is fearing your own success. And when you stop fearing success, you stop resisting the work that leads to it. 1 hour a day. That is the tool. The anchor. The altar. And in that hour you build trust. You build clarity. You build identity. And over time, you realize I no longer have to fight the old self. I simply stopped feeding it. That is the secret. That is the transformation. You do not destroy the pattern by force. You starve it with discipline. You show up anyway. You move anyway. You rise anyway. And one day you look back and say, self-minus sabotage. I remember her. She used to run this life. But now I do. Chapter 5. Your standards are the silent architects of your success. People think success is built by action. It is not. Action is a symptom. Strategy is a tool. Talent is a gift. But what builds your life, what shapes your outcomes, attracts your relationships, governs your time, and defines what you allow is your standards. Standards are not slogans. They are not the words you say in public. They are the invisible lines that define what you tolerate in private. They are the rules you live by when no one is watching. They are the boundaries you protect even when it feels uncomfortable. They are the measure of what you believe you deserve. And the reason your mindset matters so much is because it is your mindset that sets your standards. If your mind is rooted in fear, your standards will reflect that fear. If your mind is soaked in scarcity, your standards will reflect desperation. If your mind still carries the pain of not being enough, your standards will be built around proving yourself, chasing applause, overworking, settling for breadcrumbs, saying yes when you meant no. But when your mind is clear, when it is reprogrammed with truth, your standards become sacred. You stop negotiating with your peace. You stop explaining your alignment. You stop bending just to keep others comfortable. You stop tolerating environments that mock your mission. Let me be clear, your standards are not about perfection. They are about protection. Protection of your energy, your clarity, your purpose, your momentum, your peace. You are not failing because you are incapable. You are stuck because your standards are still too low. Because what you tolerate becomes your truth. What you permit becomes your pattern. And what you compromise becomes your culture. So if you want to change your results, do not start with more effort. Start with higher standards. Ask yourself, what do I allow into my schedule that drains me? What conversations do I participate in that distract me? What habits am I still justifying that dilute me? Who gets access to me without earning it? What thoughts am I entertaining that make me small? Most people never ask these questions. They think success is about working harder. It is not. It is about deciding you are worth more and living like it before you feel ready. Because your standards train the world how to treat you. But more importantly, your standards train you how to treat yourself. If you constantly delay what matters to you, your mind records that as your baseline. If you constantly explain why you did not show up, your mind registers that as your expectation. And soon, you begin to live in a pattern that becomes harder and harder to recognize as self-betrayal. But today, that can end. Today, you raise the line. You look at your sacred art not as a luxury, but as a requirement. You look at your language not as poetry, but as programming. You look at your schedule not as a list of obligations, but as a reflection of your priorities. You declare, I do not allow distraction during my hour. You declare, I do not scroll when I am meant to build. You declare, I do not give access to people who drain my clarity. You declare, I do not lower my energy just to fit in. Because when your standards rise, your life rises to meet them. I have seen it happen over and over. People who changed nothing except their internal threshold for what they were willing to tolerate, and everything shifted. New clients, new relationships, new peace, new results. Why? Because they finally understood the world bends to those who refuse to bend their standards. You must become one of them. You must lead yourself without needing motivation. You must show up for your hour like your legacy depends on it, because it does. And when the voice of compromise comes whispering just this once, you say back, that version of me no longer exists. That is not arrogance. That is alignment. And alignment is what allows you to move with conviction in a world that moves with chaos. Your standards are your stability. Your standards are your compass. Your standards are your silent success strategy. Raise them and watch your world follow. Chapter 6. You do not get what you want, you get what you expect. There is a great lie whispered in every motivational speech, written in bold across every dream board, echoed in the slogans of those who never quite rise. That lie is this: you get what you want. But if that were true, the world would look very different. Because people want healing. People want wealth. People want clarity. People want power. And yet they keep living small, tired, confused, and stuck. Not because they do not want more, but because your life does not rise to your wants. It rises to your expectations. And expectation is not hope. It is identity worn as certainty. It is the deep, unconscious command you send out every time you walk into a room, every time you speak, every time you sit down to do your work. It is the tone behind your action, the posture behind your plans, the core belief about what you are allowed to have, hold, build, and become. If you want something but expect nothing, your actions will betray your words. You will hesitate where you were meant to advance. You will shrink where you were meant to speak. You will delay where you were meant to declare. And your results will reflect not your dreams but your default settings. So, let me ask you, what do you expect? Note out loud. Deep inside. When you think about the future, what is the quiet truth your body believes? Do you expect breakthrough or breakdown? Do you expect overflow or just enough to survive? Do you expect connection or rejection? Do you expect discipline or drama? Because you can wake up every day and write your goals, repeat your affirmations, and still walk with the energy of someone who expects the worst. And that energy leads everything. It leads your communication. It leads your opportunities. It leads your relationships. People do not respond to your words. They respond to the expectation behind them. And here's the hard truth: you trained your expectations by repetition, by rehearsing defeat, by collecting disappointments and assigning them to your identity, by building beliefs on top of pain, not purpose. And if you do not untrain those expectations, they will keep lowering your ceiling even when the door is open. That is why your mindset is the real blueprint. It is not just what you think. It is what you believe is possible for someone like you. And until you raise that belief, your life will never outgrow your expectation. So, let us raise it. Let us write a new script, not someday. No. Expectation is not something you wait for. It is something you install. And you install it the same way you installed the old one, through practice. Each morning you declare not just what you want but what you expect. You speak it into your nervous system. You write it into your body. You act as if it is already law. And when doubt comes in it, will you answer it with movement? Because the fastest way to upgrade your expectation is to take action before your mind feels ready. Why? Because action creates evidence. And evidence creates certainty. And once you are certain, you no longer have to force belief. You'll become belief. I worked with a man who had every tool, every resource, every opportunity. But nothing changed. Why? Because deep down, he expected to lose. It was what he had seen. It was what he had lived. His entire nervous system was built around disappointment. So even when success knocked, he would prepare to fail. That changed the day he stopped preparing for disappointment and started preparing for overflow. And not just preparing, expecting it. He wrote it. He rehearsed it. He moved from it. And when the doors opened, he walked through not in shock, but in alignment. That is who you must become. The person who expects the room to open. The person who expects the work to pay off. The person who expects success not because of arrogance, but because they train for it. You train your body. You train your mind. Now train your expectation. Let the sacred hour each day be your recalibration. Not just a time to work. A time to remember who you are and what you are worth. A time to raise the standard for what is normal in your life. Because when expectation becomes law in your spirit, success is not a surprise. It is a confirmation. Chapter 7. When you change the inner conversation, you change the outer reality. Everything you experience in life flows through one gate: the conversation you have with yourself when no one else is around. Not the conversation you have in public, not the one you rehearse for others, but the raw, private dialogue that shapes your beliefs, reactions, choices, and identity. That inner voice. It is the architect of your reality. Most people speak to themselves like an enemy. They bully their potential. They belittle their own progress. They negotiate with failure. They speak with the voice of someone they would never tolerate in their life and then wonder why they feel paralyzed, small, and unworthy. But here is what you must understand: your outer life is the echo of your inner voice. And until you change that voice, nothing you build will ever feel safe, stable, or sustainable. The inner conversation creates your emotional climate. If that voice constantly doubts, you walk in hesitation. If that voice constantly accuses, you walk in shame. If that voice constantly minimizes, you walk beneath your own potential. That is why mindset is not just about thinking positively. It is about rewriting your internal language with surgical precision and daily repetition. Because that voice does not leave on its own. It was installed through repetition. And it must be replaced the same way. You do not argue with it. You override it. You do not wait for it to soften. You speak something stronger. But first, you must hear it clearly. Sit still. Listen. What does the inner voice say when things go wrong? When you are criticized? When you mess up? When you succeed? Is it kind? Is it patient? Is it aligned with your highest self, or is it still echoing the fears and failures of your past? Because if your inner voice still speaks in the language of defeat, then your outer world will remain a battlefield. But the moment you change the inner conversation, your life begins to transform from the inside out. Let me be clear: the transformation will not feel natural at first. Because your mind is loyal to patterns, not progress. It will try to drag you back to the familiar voice of doubt. But you are not here to be familiar. You are here to be free. And freedom begins the moment you open your mouth and speak something new. So what do you say? You say, I am no longer the critic of my own life. I speak to myself like someone I am leading, not someone I am punishing. I speak to myself from the future, not the past. I do not rehearse failure, I rehearse truth. And when your old voice rises again, you interrupt it. Not with silence. With language. You do not think better, you speak better. Because the tongue is the key to the nervous system. Your mind listens to your voice. Your body aligns with what it hears. Your energy shifts with every syllable. So make it your ritual. Each morning in your sacred hour, before the noise of the world enters, you speak your new identity aloud. I led myself with clarity. I build without fear. My time is sacred. My standards are non-negotiable. My hour is not optional, it is where I meet my power. Repeat it with fire. Repeat it with faith. Repeat it until your body stops resisting it, until the words are no longer borrowed from books or coaches or quotes, but born from your own soul. Because when your language shifts, your identity follows. And once your identity shifts, your life begins to align. That alignment is not hype. It is magnetic truth. People will feel it. Doors will open. Not because the world changed, but because you stopped speaking like someone waiting to be rescued. You spoke like someone who remembered they were never a victim of their circumstances, they were a creator of their environment. That is what mindset mastery looks like. Not louder thoughts. Truer ones. Not more positive noise. but more intentional voice. You are not what you have been through. You are not what you have delayed. You are not what you have doubted. You are what you decide to speak daily, deliberately, without apology. So write the new script. Speak it daily. Walk in it fully. Because the moment the conversation changes, so does everything else. Chapter 8. Confidence is earned in private, displayed in public. The world loves to celebrate confidence. We cheer for the person who speaks boldly, moves decisively, walks into the room with certainty. But what the world does not see, what no one tells you, is that real confidence is never built in front of others. It is earned in silence, crafted in the dark hours, shaped in the moments when you kept your word to yourself while no one was watching. Confidence is not a personality trait. It is not loud. It is not about being extroverted. It is not charisma. Confidence is a pattern of self-minus trust that gets reinforced every time you show up in private for the vision that is calling you. And the moment you realize that, you stop chasing hype and start building habits. The most dangerous person in the room is not the loudest. It is the one who is trained in silence. Because the world cannot intimidate someone who has already wrestled their own mind and won. Every time you honor your sacred hour, you send a signal. I am someone who follows through. I am someone who can be trusted with power. I am someone who is not waiting to be seen. I am preparing to be ready. That preparation is the quiet path to confidence. It is built when you say yes to your work while the rest of the world is asleep. It is built when you keep writing, even when you are not sure if it is good. It is built when you train your body, even when no one is keeping score. It is built when you create in the silence, not for applause, but because it is who you are now. Confidence grows in every moment you refuse to betray yourself. And betrayal, for most, is not obvious. It comes softly. It comes when you say, I will start tomorrow. It comes when you scroll instead of move. It comes when you silence your vision just to stay small enough for others to stay comfortable around you. Those small betrayals chip away at your belief. They poison your self-minus image. And without a new image, you will never rise into a new level of success. You must see yourself differently before others ever will. Confidence begins in the mind, but it lives in the body. That means how you move, how you speak, how you use it, how you show up for your hour. It all matters. Because your nervous system is listening. And when you begin to act like someone worthy of trust, your body starts to believe it. You do not need permission to be confident. You need proof. And that proof comes from your pattern. Let us get honest. What is your pattern right now? Do you finish what you start? Do you honor your like a contract with your future? Do you speak with clarity or with apology? Do you move with conviction or with hesitation? Your confidence is waiting to be activated not by achievement, but by alignment. Alignment with your identity. Alignment with your word. Alignment with your sacred rhythm. That rhythm is the reset. Every morning you must return to the pattern. You must say, I do not ask the world to believe in me. I train myself to believe in me. That is the shift. And when you train that belief day after day, hour after hour, it becomes undeniable. People will feel it in your presence. They will trust your voice without needing your resume. They will follow your clarity without asking for proof. Because confidence cannot be faked. It cannot be borrowed. It must be forged. And the forge is always in private. The sacred hour. The quiet practice. The repetition no one claps for. Do not wait for someone to anoint you. Do not wait to feel ready. Do not wait for more credentials. More applause, more signs. Stand up. Speak with certainty. Move like someone who has already become the person they once only dreamed of. Because that dream? It is not ahead of you. It is inside you, waiting to be confirmed by how you show up. This is confidence. Not in volume, but in vow. The vow you keep to yourself. Over and over again. Until the world no longer wonders who you are. Because your presence will answer the question before it is asked. Chapter 9. The world bows to the focused. In a world addicted to noise, focus is rebellion. In a culture trained to scatter, to scroll, to multitask itself into exhaustion, focus becomes your power. And not just a useful tool. A weapon. A magnet. A force that separates those who dream from those who deliver. You want to rise. You want to lead. You want your name to carry the weight of integrity and authority. Then you must become the most focused person in the room. Because the world does not reward potential. It rewards concentration of power, and power only concentrates when the mind stops splitting itself in 100 directions. Let us be honest. You know what to do. You have heard the ideas. You have written the plans. You have whispered to yourself, I am capable. But then the distractions come. The pings. The voices. The options. The moods. And suddenly, the day slips. The work is left half-minus done. The clarity you had in the morning becomes fog by noon. Not because you are weak. Because you were never trained to protect your focus like a throne. Your mind, when scattered, cannot produce miracles. It can only maintain mediocrity. But a trained, bended, disciplined, guarded, concentrated mind creates worlds. And the secret is not more time. It is fewer leaks. Leaks of attention. Leaks of energy. Leaks of commitment. Every time you say yes to what does not matter, you drain power from what does. Every time you allow distraction, you disrespect the sacred hour. Every time you try to do 10 things at once, you split your soul. And a split soul cannot move mountains. But one that is whole, one that is focused, it becomes undeniable. Focus is not just about doing one thing. It is about becoming one person. The person who knows exactly why they are here. The person who clears the clutter. The person who says no not because they are rude, but because they are rooted. The person who moves slowly through noise but swiftly through purpose. That kind of person bends time. They walk into a room and silence the chaos. They sit down for 1 hour and produce what others postpone for months. They become the exception. And if you want to be exceptional, you must earn it in focus. Let me give you truth: if you do not protect your sacred hour with violent clarity, the world will eat it. It will take your time, your energy, your creativity, and sell it back to you as entertainment. You will scroll while your future stars. You will say, I am researching, while you're calling colics dust. You will move, but you will not advance. Why? Because motion is not momentum. Only focused movement creates momentum. That is why this hour matters. Not just that you show up for it, but that you guard it like a king guards a crown. No entry for distraction. No entry for excuses. No entry for other people's emergencies. Just you. Your work. Your voice. Your calling. Undiluted. That kind of hour, repeated daily, builds empires. I know people who changed their entire trajectory with one sacred, focused hour a day. They built companies, restored families, healed bodies, wrote books, found clarity not through multitasking, but through mastery of focus. Focus is not natural anymore. It is trained. And if you train it, you become rare. And rare people live rare lives. So let us train it now. Turn off the world. Shut the doors. Silence the phones. Close the tabs. One task. 1 hour. One commitment. Every day. Until your nervous system expects silence. Until your creativity flows without friction. Until your energy arrives whole. That is your edge. That is your elevation. Not the degree. Not the strategy. The focus. Because the world bows not to the talented, not to the loud, not to the popular. The world bows to the focused. Chapter 10. Discipline is a love letter to your future. Most people misunderstand discipline. They treat it like a punishment, a restriction, a necessary evil to earn some delayed reward. But they miss the truth that could change everything. Discipline is not punishment. It is devotion. It is the most powerful form of self-respect. It is a love letter to your future. Every time you show up tired, unmotivated, doubting every time you move anyway, you are saying to your future, I love you too much to abandon you today. Not as what the sacred art teaches you. Not just how to focus, but how to honor your own becoming. The reason most people stay stuck is not because they do not know what to do. It is because they keep negotiating with themselves. They keep treating their dreams like guests, welcoming them only when the mood is right. But your future is not a guest. It is your birthright. And discipline is the way you protect it. You want to live with confidence? Then stop looking for motivation and start building reputation with yourself. Because the truth is this: your self-trust is either growing or eroding every single day. And nothing grows self-trust faster than discipline. Not discipline once a week. Discipline daily. The decision to say, no matter what today throws at me, my hour is non-negotiable. Discipline says, I said I would do it, and that is enough. I may not feel like it, but feelings do not run this house. I may be scared, but I am more loyal to my future than to my fear. That is not cold. That is compassion. Because discipline is the structure that holds your greatness in place. Without it, everything collapses under pressure. Discipline is what lets you build slow and strong. Because anyone can start. But only the disciplined become finishers. And that is who you are now, not someone who dabbles. Someone who decides. Let me tell you something sacred: the most magnetic people you will ever meet are not the most charismatic. They are the most integrated. And integration comes from discipline. The quiet, constant, unshakable decision to live in agreement with your values, not just your desires. Every time you show up for your sacred hour, you are saying, I do not need applause. I do not need perfect conditions. I do not need to be in the mood. I move because this hour belongs to who I am becoming. And with every repetition, that future begins to take shape. The fog lifts. The vision returns. You walk straighter. Speak clearer. Act bolder. Because you are no longer wondering, can I trust myself? You know. And that knowing, it becomes your anchor in chaos. It becomes your edge in crowded rooms. It becomes your fire when the world goes cold. So yes, some days, the discipline will feel heavy. But that weight, that is your crown being fitted. That is your roots growing deeper. That is your story being written in a language only the faithful understand. I worked with a woman who used to quit everything. She hated discipline. Said it felt like a prison. But one day she said to me, maybe the prison is the chaos I keep creating every time I walk away from what I promised myself. That was her turning point. She showed up the next day. And the day after. And the day after. And now? She does not even need reminders. The discipline became her identity. That is what it does. You start by pushing yourself. Then one day you realize you are the person who keeps showing up. And that identity cannot be bought. It must be earned. 1 hour at a time. One decision at a time. One refusal to quit at a time. So from now on, let your discipline be your love language. To your peace. To your power. To the version of you waiting on the other side of your consistency. Let your sacred awe be your altar. Not of performance. Of devotion. Because no matter how dark the road gets, no matter how long the climb feels, discipline will always lead you home. Chapter 11. You do not need more time, you need more courage. It is the sentence most people live by, the one they say with guilt, with apology, with resignation, I just need more time. But that is not the truth. That is not why you are stuck. That is not what is holding your life back. The real reason is this: you do not need more time. You need more courage. Courage to start without perfect clarity. Courage to act without a full plan. Courage to say, this is my hour and I do not care if the world understands it. Because time has never been your problem. Time is honest. Time is fixed. Time does not lie to you. But fear does. Doubt does. Delay does. And every time you blame time, you let fear walk free. What you really need is the courage to use what you already have with precision, with discipline, and with no more negotiation. Let us be clear, every single person who has built something powerful did it with the same 20-4 hours. The same sunrises. The same demands. But what they had, the only thing they had more of, was conviction. And conviction comes from courage. You must stop hiding behind the calendar. Because as long as you keep saying, one day, when life slows down, you will keep handing your future to circumstance. And your future cannot afford to be ruled by circumstances. It must be led by your decisions. Courage is not loud. Courage is not fearless. Courage is not the absence of hesitation. Courage is what you do when fear is present but your standards are louder. And if your standards are truly sacred, you will stop waiting for the perfect season. You will show up in the storm. You will write when your heart is broken. You will build when your hands are shaking. You will speak when your voice trembles. You will act while still afraid. Because action is the only way through fear. Not thinking. Not waiting. Action. Even 5 minutes of bold, focused, sacred action is enough to begin the transformation. And when repeated daily, that 5 minutes becomes your fire. That is what the sacred hour is for. Not to find more time, but to declare time is no longer my excuse. I move now. I build now. I choose now. You do not need a clean schedule. You need a clear standard. You do not need fewer distractions. You need a louder reason. You do not need to wait until you are ready. You need to act until readiness catches up to your bravery. I remember a man who had the perfect vision, perfect resources, perfect support system, and still made no move. I just don't have the space, he said. But when we stripped back the excuses, it was not about space. It was about permission. He was waiting for someone to say, "You can start now." So let me say it to you. You can start now. Not when you feel like it. Now. Because the pain of not becoming who you are is heavier than the fear of beginning. Your hour is enough. Your mind is ready. Your future is listening. And your greatness is not hiding in a better planner or a perfect schedule. It is hiding in the hour you keep postponing. So rise anyway. Say yes anyway. Begin anyway. Because courage is not for the extraordinary. Courage makes people extraordinary. Chapter 12. One decision away from an entirely different life. There is something terrifying and beautiful about this truth. You are one decision away from an entirely different life. Not 100 steps. Not a perfect strategy. Not a 10-year plan. Just one decision made in full alignment, full clarity, full responsibility. And that decision is not about what to do. It is about who you will be from this moment forward. Most people do not change because they never decide to stop being who they were. They keep adding new habits on top of old identities. They keep chasing success while dragging along the weight of indecision. But indecision is the enemy of transformation. And until you decide fully, finally, fiercely, you will keep delaying what is already yours. Let us stop here. Let us ask what no one else asks you. Have you actually decided? Have you truly crossed the line and said, "I will never go back"? Or are you still entertaining the idea of returning to comfort if it gets too hard? Because transformation only begins when you close the back door. The hour you commit to every day, it is not just about growth. It is about becoming someone who does not negotiate with their own greatness anymore. This is the hour where you stop choosing between versions of yourself. You choose one. You burn the old stories. You bury the excuses. You silence the voices of fear. And you step forward, even if you are still trembling. Because every next level in your life will require a new version of you, not just new tactics. And that version, it starts with one choice: I will lead now. Not later. Not when it is easier. Not when the world catches up. No. You are not waiting for the right time. You are the time. You are not waiting for signs. You are the signal. You are not hoping someone will come save you. You are the one who saves yourself. This is the power of decision. It is not a moment. It is a shift. A new gravity. A new standard. And once you feel it click into place, your life begins to align around it. Doors open. Ideas come. Energy rises. People respond. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You must understand this: every result you are chasing is already available. What is missing is not the opportunity, it is the version of you who can hold it. And that version only arrives when you decide. Decide to show up. Decide to no longer tolerate emotional inconsistency. Decide to master your mind, not just explore it. Decide to guard your art like your soul lives in it, because it does. You do not need to become someone else. You need to stop betraying the person you already are. The one who was born to lead. The one who was made to rise. The one who knows deep in their bones that the longer they delay, the heavier the regret becomes. This is the moment where delay ends. This is the moment where excuses die. This is the moment where you choose. And once you choose, everything changes. Let it be final. Let it be real. Let it echo through your posture, your voice, your hour, your rhythm, your vision. Let the world feel the shift in your energy before you say a word. Because this is not just another decision. This is the decision. And from here forward, you live like someone who already won. Not because it is done, but because you decided it would be. This is your standard now. Before the world calls again, before the schedule resumes, before the demands return, pause. Let the silence hold you. Let the clarity arrive. Because this moment is sacred. This is where you choose your standard again. Not based on emotion. Not based on convenience. Based on who you now know yourself to be. You have walked through 13 doors. One chapter at a time, you have returned to your power. Not the loud kind. The kind that lives in private repetition, in silent decisions, in sacred hours when no one is watching. Now the question is not what else do you know. The question is what will you no longer tolerate. That is what this reset is for. This is not motivation. This is maintenance. This is where you plant your flag and say, this is who I am now. You are no longer someone who waits to feel ready. You are no longer someone who abandons yourself at the first sign of resistance. You are no longer someone who negotiates with fear, delay, or doubt. You are someone who honors their hour. Someone who protects their peace. Someone who leads from clarity, not chaos. Someone who has stopped borrowing identity and started living from it. So let us reset the non-minus negotiable S. You do not wait for a new year to shift. You shift now. You do not check your phone before your mind. You check in with your future self first. You do not give access to people who dilute your energy. You build gates around your fire. You do not pretend to be confused. You choose and move. You do not repeat old scripts. You write new ones daily. And when the day gets heavy, when the voice of your old self tries to return, you speak one sentence out loud. This is my standard now. Say it slowly. Say it like a vow. Because that sentence is the sword that cuts through all hesitation. This is my standard now. Not perfection. Not hype. Just truth. Just clarity. Just discipline wrapped in devotion. You wake up with it. You walk with it. You lead with it. And you remind yourself that your sacred hour is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you have always been beneath the noise. This reset is not a soft breath. It is a bold line. Draw it. Keep it. Live from it. Because now you know you were never chasing a goal. You were building a standard. And that standard will hold you steady long after the feelings fade. That standard will build the life. That standard will carry your name into rooms your fear tried to keep you out of. And when people ask how you did it, you will smile and say, I stopped waiting. I chose a higher standard. And I never dropped it again. You were the answer all along. This is the page the world does not expect you to reach. Because most people never finish. They start. They wish. They plan. But when it gets quiet, when the mirror gets honest, when the resistance gets sharp, they stop. But you did not stop. You stayed. You walked through the war inside your own mind. You showed up for the hour you used to abandon. You chose truth over noise. Discipline over delay. Devotion over distraction. And now here you are standing not as someone waiting for transformation, but as someone who has become it. So, this final call is not a summary. It is a summons. A reminder that nothing you are looking for is out there. It never was. The strength, already in you. The clarity, already in you. The power, already in you. All it needed was a pattern, a rhythm. A sacred hour where you stopped leaking and started leading. Do you understand now? You were the answer all along. Not a version of you 10 years from now. You today. The one who chose again and again to rise when it was easier to sleep. The one who stopped making excuses when the world gave you every reason to quit. The one who stopped performing and started building. That is who you are. And you must never forget it. The hour that changed everything. It is not about routines. It is not about the perfect formula. It is about remembrance. Remembering that your mind, when trained, becomes your compass. Your voice, when trusted, becomes your revolution. Your hour, when honored, becomes the altar where your old self dies and your true self returns. So, here is your final charge. Live like the hour is yours to protect. Walk like your presence is proof of what is possible. Build like you are not hoping you are home. Let your life now speak what your lips no longer need to shout. I do not chase. I create. I do not wait. I move. I do not need validation. I am built from vision. This is the difference. Not motivation. Not luck. Just the one who keeps showing up. And now? You carry the weight of this hour into every room. Every room you enter becomes clearer. Every space you occupy becomes sharper. Because you are no longer confused. You remember who you are. And no one can take that from you. Not fear. Not delay. Not noise. Not failure. This is your hour. This is your rhythm. This is your identity etched into your days by fire, not fantasy. You are not dreaming anymore. You are embodying. So go live it. Not someday. Not next season. Now. Because your future is not coming. It is waiting for your command. And now at last you are ready to give it.